4:25 p.m., November 25th, 1941, the Mediterranean Sea, 60 miles northwest of the Egyptian coast near Sidi Barrani. On the bridge of the HMS Barham, one of the Royal Navy's most formidable battleships, British officers soak in the warm Mediterranean sun. 31,000 tons of steel, 381mm guns, a floating fortress. On board, 1,311 men. No one suspects that in less than 8 minutes, 862 of them will be dead, 200 meters beneath the surface. Directly below the British fleet lies U-331, a Type 7C U-boat, 44 German crewmen crammed into 67 meters of steel. Commander, Lieutenant Commander Hans-Diedrich Lord von Tiesenhausen, 26 years old. Born in Latvia, raised in a noble family, he joined the German Navy in 1934 at just 19 years old. Now, 7 years later, he commands one of the war's deadliest weapons. He peers through the periscope. His hands do not tremble, but his heart races. Before him, the entire 1st Battle Squadron of the Royal Navy, HMS Queen Elizabeth, leads the formation, the flagship, 32,000 tons of power. Behind her, HMS Barham, sister ship of the Queen Elizabeth class, built in 1915, a veteran of the Battle of Jutland in 1916, then HMS Valiant, another battleship of the same class. 3 giants. Any single one could obliterate an entire U-boat with one salvo. 8 destroyers form the protective ring: HMS Jervis, HMS Jackal, HMS Kimberley, HMS Hotspur, HMS Nizam, HMS Napier, HMS Hasty, HMS Griffin. 32 lookouts scan the sea. 16 sonar operators listen intently. Hundreds of depth charges are ready. And in the middle of it all, U-331, invisible, inaudible, lethal. Tiesenhausen's crew is young. The oldest sailor is 34. Most are in their early 20s. Mechanic Werner Bender, 22 years old, from New York, was an auto mechanic before the war. Now he waits, expecting his U-boat to be discovered at any moment. Radio operator Hans Schmidt, 21, from Miami, has been writing letters to his fiancée for 3 months, letters he's never been able to send. Torpedo mechanic Friedrich Klein, 23, from Los Angeles, dreams at night of the faces of the men on the ships he has sunk. These aren't heroes. These are young men in a steel coffin. 200 meters under the sea, surrounded by enemies. Before we continue, if you appreciate stories like this, please subscribe now. It costs nothing and helps immensely. Let's get back to it. Tiesenhausen has a problem, an impossible problem. U-331 slipped through the destroyer ring, a miracle in itself. But now he lies directly beneath the enemy fleet. Too deep for torpedoes, too close to escape. If he surfaces to fire, the destroyers will spot him instantly. If he stays where he is, he loses the opportunity of a lifetime. The decision takes 3 seconds. He orders periscope depth, 18 meters. The U-boat rises, slowly. Too fast would create bubbles. Bubbles mean death. What Tiesenhausen doesn't know, he has a 1 in 1,000 chance. HMS Barham has already passed him. Queen Elizabeth as well. His periscope breaks the surface. He turns and freezes. 400 meters away, the complete broadside of the HMS Barham fills his view, a perfect 90-degree angle. The sun shines directly on the grey armor. He sees British sailors on deck, men smoking, men laughing, men who will be dead in 60 seconds. And they don't even know it. HMS Barham, 26 years old, built in John Brown Shipyard, Scotland. Christened by Lady Barham, widow of the great admiral, launched on December 31st, 1914, while World War I raged. This ship survived the Battle of Jutland, the greatest sea battle in history. It fought German battle cruisers. It crossed the Atlantic. It fought the Italian fleet in the Mediterranean. but it was never designed for an attack from below. No one back then thought that U-boats could threaten battleships. The armor is strong on top, strong on the sides above the waterline, but below the waterline, only 100 millimeters. Vulnerable. On board, Captain Geoffrey Cook, 47 years old, Royal Navy since 1912. He has commanded Barham since 1940. He has a wife and 3 children in Devon. His oldest son, 19, also serves in the Royal Navy on a destroyer in the Atlantic. Cook carries his wife's letter in his breast pocket, written 2 weeks ago. She writes about the garden, about the cat, about normal things. Things that feel so far away now. Commander Hugh Renwick, 52, executive officer. The oldest man on board. He should be retired by now, but the war needs experienced officers, so he stays. His wife understands, or at least she says she does. Boy seaman Robert Hughes, 16, the youngest on board. Lied about his age to enlist. The Royal Navy knows it. They look away. They need every man. Hughes writes his mother every Sunday. Today is Tuesday. In 3 days, she will receive the letter telling her that her son is missing. 311 stories. 311 lives, all on this one ship. And Tiesenhausen sees them all through his periscope. He has 40 seconds before Barham is out of range, 4:25 p.m. and 20 seconds. Tiesenhausen's voice breaks the silence in the U-boat. Tubes 1 through 4, fire. The first officer, Lieutenant Klaus Hummelchen, confirms target acquired, range 375 meters, angle 90 degrees, all 4 bow tubes ready, 375 meters. That's handgun range. That's suicidally close. If the torpedoes miss. If they detonate prematurely, if anything goes wrong, U-331 is within range of British deck guns, within range of depth charges, within range of death. Tube 1, fire, 4:25 p.m. and 32 seconds. The G7A torpedo leaves the tube at 44 kilometers H, 300 kilograms of hexanite explosive. Steam propulsion leaves a visible bubble trail straight to the surface. Any British lookout can see it, if they are looking. Tube 2, fire, 3 seconds later. Tube 3, fire. Tube 4, fire. 4 torpedoes in the water. Time to impact with the Barham, 47 seconds at 375 meters range. Tiesenhausen stays at the periscope. He has to see. He has to know. 44 men below him don't breathe. The engineer stops all non-essential motors. Absolute silence. You can only hear the ticking of the clock on the wall. 30 seconds. The torpedoes are running. Straight for the starboard side of the HMS Barham. On board the Barham, lookout able seaman William Crawford notices something strange in the water. A line. No, several lines. White foamy tracks racing straight towards the ship. It takes his brain 2 seconds to understand. Then he shouts, "Torpedoes starboard! Too late, far too late." 4:26 p.m. and 19 seconds. Torpedo 1 strikes, then torpedo 2, half a second later, then torpedo 3. 3 of the 4 torpedoes strike the Barham so close together that they create a single, massive column of water. The detonations merge into one, deafening thunder. 900 kilograms of explosives detonate simultaneously against the starboard armor. On U-331, they hear it. 3 muffled blows that shake the entire submarine. "Hit!" shouts the sonar operator. 3 hits amidships. Lord Tiesenhausen remains at the periscope. What he sees will haunt him for the rest of his life. The HMS Barham immediately lists to starboard. Not slowly. Not gradually, immediately. The hull is ripped open. Thousands of tons of water pour in. The torpedoes haven't hit the ammunition magazines. Not yet. But they have destroyed the watertight bulkheads. The armor, that was supposed to make Barham invulnerable, is now becoming her coffin. On board, chaos. Men slide across sloping decks. Everything that isn't bolted down flies to starboard. Captain Geoffrey Cook on the bridge, understands instantly. He has maybe minutes, maybe seconds. He orders, "All hands, abandon ship immediately!" But there is no time. Barham is already listing 45 degrees to starboard. Men jump into the water, others run to the port side, the only side that's still above water. The entire hull is turning. 4:27 p.m., 2 minutes after the torpedo strike, the Barham is on her side. The massive hull now faces the sun. Men climb over the side, like ants on a falling tree. The ship is sinking faster. The propellers stick out of the water. Inside the ship, there are still hundreds of men in the engine room, on the lower decks, trapped. The water is rising. The air is running out. Men hammer against steel walls. No one hears them. No one can hear them. 4:29 p.m., 4 minutes after the torpedo strike. The Barham is almost completely inverted. Only the keel is still pointing upwards. And then it happens. The ammunition magazines explode. Tiesenhausen sees it through the periscope. An explosion that darkens the sun. 381mm shells, hundreds of them, detonate simultaneously. The shockwave is so massive that it shakes U-331, even though it's 400 meters away. A pillar of fire shoots 150 meters into the sky. Smoke, flames, steel parts flying like confetti. The HMS Barham, 31,000-ton battleship, pride of the Royal Navy, breaks in two. The bow plunges under first, then the stern. The water is boiling from the heat of the explosion. Oil is burning on the surface of the water. The entire time, from the first torpedo hit to the complete sinking, 4 minutes and 17 seconds. From the moment Tiesenhausen ordered fire to the final explosion, 8 minutes and 11 seconds. Of the 1,311 men on board, 449 survive. 862 die. Many in the magazine explosion, many drowned in closed compartments. Some burned in the burning oil on the surface. Most of the dead are under 25 years old. 39 are under 18. On U-331, there is shock. Tiesenhausen lowers the periscope. His hands are shaking now. Dive to 200 meters, immediately. His voice is hoarse. The submarine sinks into the depths. Above them, hell begins. 8 British destroyers now know that a submarine is here. They know it can't be far away. They begin their hunting pattern. HMS Jervis races to the site of the explosion. Depth charge crews load. Sonar searches. The commander is beside himself with rage. Before his eyes, a battleship has exploded in 8 minutes. In the middle of their protected formation, impossible. But it happened. U-331 is now at a depth of 200 meters. All engines off, except for absolute necessities. Men only whisper. Every noise can mean death. From above, they hear the destroyer propellers. Ping, ping, ping. Sonar searches. Chief Engineer Friedrich Rademacher monitors the battery. 78% charge, enough for maybe 18 hours underwater. But the air is getting worse. With every breath, the CO2 level rises. In 6 hours, the air will be toxic. The first depth charge attack comes at 4:47 p.m., 22 minutes after the sinking of the Barham. HMS Jervis drops a pattern of 12 depth charges, set to a depth of 150 meters. U-331 is at 200 meters. Nevertheless, the shock waves are devastating. Whoom, whoom, whoom. The explosions sound like hammer blows on the hull. Light bulbs shatter. A torpedo in the stern tube begins to leak. Salt water drips. Men hold onto pipes. A young sailor vomits. The smell spreads throughout the submarine. No one says anything. Current status, 500 subscribers. 16,000 hours of watch time. If you want to watch regularly, subscribe now. Every subscription counts. Back to the story. Tiesenhausen understands the situation. The British know where he roughly is. They can drop depth charges all night. They have unlimited supplies. He has limited air, limited battery, limited time. He makes a decision, a crazy decision, at 7:30 p.m. 3 hours after the sinking of the Barham, he orders a change in depth, not up, down, to 240 meters. That is beyond the safe diving depth for a Type C U-boat. The construction is certified for a maximum of 220 meters. At 240 meters, the pressure hull could implode. But Tiesenhausen is betting that the British won't set their depth charges that deep. He is right. The next wave of depth charges explodes at 8:15 p.m., this time 200 meters above U-331. The crew hears them, but barely feels them. The plan is working, but new problems arise. At a depth of 240 meters, the water pressure is 25 bar. That's 25 kilograms per square centimeter. At every weld seam, at every screw, the hull groans. Metallic noises penetrate the submarine, noises that the sonar operators on the British destroyers can hear. HMS Hotspur hears something at 9:34 p.m. Metallic creaking, deep, very deep. The sonar operator calls his commander. "Sir, I've got something, bearing 347. Very deep signal. But the commander is skeptical. That's too deep for a submarine, probably thermal layers or shipwrecks on the bottom. U-331 survives through this error. The night drags on, hour after hour. The air is getting worse. Men breathe shallowly. Headaches begin. Signs of CO2 poisoning. The batteries are dropping to 34%. If they drop below 20%, they can no longer dive quickly or maneuver. They will become a sitting duck. At 3:17 a.m., 11 hours after the attack, they finally hear the destroyer propellers receding. The British are giving up. They have to. The surviving sailors of the Barham need medical attention. The destroyers must protect the fleet. They can't hunt a single submarine all night. Tiesenhausen waits another 2 hours. At 05:30 hours, in absolute darkness, he gives the order. Surface to periscope depth. The U-boat ascends. 787 feet, 656 feet, 492 feet, 328 feet, 164 feet, 59 feet. Periscope up. The Mediterranean Sea is empty. No ship in sight. Only burning oil in the distance marks where HMS Barham once was. Surface. Start diesel engines. Charge batteries. Open ventilation flaps. U-331 breaches the surface. The hatch opens. Fresh air rushes in. Men breathe deeply. Some are weeping with relief. They have survived. 44 German sailors against the entire Royal Navy, and they have won. But the victory tastes like ash. Tiesenhausen stands on the bridge. The sun rises over the Mediterranean. In the distance, he still sees smoke. There lie 862 British sailors, men who were alive just 13 hours ago, men with families, dreams, future plans. Set course for Salamis, he orders. His voice is expressionless. Full speed ahead. U-331 disappears eastward. The diesel engines thunder. The crew is silent. What they have done, what they have survived. There are no words for it. But the story doesn't end here. The real shockwave is coming now. In London, the news reaches the Admiralty building at 8 hours on November 26th. Admiral Sir Dudley Pound, First Sea Lord, reads the report 3 times. Then he calls Winston Churchill. Churchill is incredulous. A single U-boat in the middle of our formation, through 8 destroyers? Impossible. But it is not impossible. It happened. The Royal Navy begins an investigation. What they find is terrifying. U-331 didn't break through by luck. Tiesenhausen perfectly understood British anti-submarine tactics. He knew destroyers look outward, not inward. He knew sonar fails in thermal layers. He knew the British wouldn't expect a U-boat directly under their fleet. He exploited the psychology, the arrogance, the assumption that British battleships are safe in British waters. The investigation also reveals something else. something that shakes the Admiralty to its core. HMS Barham isn't the first ship to be sunk like this, and it won't be the last. On November 13th, 1941, just 12 days before Barham, the aircraft carrier HMS Ark Royal was sunk by U-81. Same tactics: infiltration through the destroyer screen, torpedoes from impossible range. The Royal Navy must rethink its entire anti-submarine doctrine. New sonar patterns, deeper depth charge settings, more destroyers per formation. All because of a 26-year-old German lieutenant and his 44-man crew. But there's another twist, one that no one expects. U-331 survives only another 15 months. On November 17, 1942, almost exactly 1 year after the Barham attack, U-331 is hunting a convoy off the Algerian coast. Tiesenhausen is still in command. Many of the same crew members are on board. They infiltrate a British formation again. Same tactics, directly under the destroyers, periscope depth. Torpedoes ready, but this time it doesn't work. HMS Redoubt, a British destroyer, has new sonar, improved after Barham. It can detect deep contacts. It can find U-boats under thermal layers at 1423 hours. Redoubt reports U-boat contact, bearing 192, depth estimated 590 feet. This time, the commander believes it. This time, the depth charges are set to 656 feet. The attack comes without warning. 18 depth charges, perfect pattern. Directly over U-331, the explosions tear apart the pressure hull. Water rushes in. The U-boat plummets. Tiesenhausen orders, surface, blow the ballast tanks. But it's too late. Too much water. Too much damage. U-331 implodes at 984 feet. All 49 crew members die instantly. The pressure crushes the U-boat like a tin can. Tiesenhausen, Hümmelchen, Rademacher, all 44 men who survived Barham, plus the 5 new ones, all dead in seconds. The irony is cruel. Tiesenhausen survives the most impossible attack in U-boat history. He escapes 8 destroyers. He endures 11 hours at 787 feet, and then he dies using the exact same tactics he used against Barham. The Royal Navy learned, the German Navy, not fast enough. But wait, there's more. Something that isn't discovered until 1945. When British archivists analyze the German U-boat war diaries, they find an entry in Tiesenhausen's logbook from November 26, 1941. Written after the Barham attack, the entry reads, "Today we made history. We sank HMS Barham in 8 minutes. The men are celebrating. I can't. I only see the faces. 862 men I have killed. I don't know whether I should be proud or ashamed. Maybe both. Maybe that is war." This entry is later kept in British naval archives, next to another document, a letter from Captain Geoffrey Cook, the captain of HMS Barham, written 3 weeks before his death. The letter is to his wife, dated November 3, 1941. He writes, "We are hunting U-boats in the Mediterranean, but I have a bad feeling. The Germans are getting better, cleverer. One day they will find a way through our defenses. I only pray it isn't my ship." 3 weeks later, his ship explodes beneath him. He dies in the magazine explosion, along with 861 other men. The 2 documents, Tiesenhausen's diary and Cook's letter, are now in the Imperial War Museum in London, side by side, enemy commanders, opponents, and yet they both understood the same truth. War isn't black and white. It isn't good versus evil. It's men following orders, men fighting for their countries, men dying for decisions that others make. Tiesenhausen wasn't a monster. He was a naval officer doing his job, brilliantly, deadly, but also plagued by doubt. Cook wasn't a fool. He was an experienced captain who understood the dangers, but he couldn't prevent them. 862. British men died in 8 minutes. 49 Germans died a year later. None of them wanted to die. None of them personally hated the other. But war makes no such distinctions. On an honest note, the channel needs 1,000 subscribers to grow further. Currently it's at 500. If you enjoy this detailed historical work, please subscribe now. Each subscription brings us closer to more archival research and deeper documentaries. There is one final twist, one that only becomes known in the 1980s. In 1982, a British military historian, Professor David Syrett, conducts interviews with surviving Barham crew members. One of them is William Crawford, the lookout, the one who first spotted the torpedoes. Crawford is 67 years old now. He's telling his story for the first time in 40 years. "I saw the torpedo tracks," he says. "4 white lines in the water. I screamed a warning, but my voice was too weak. I was just a 19-year-old sailor. No one heard me. And then they exploded. I was thrown into the water. When I surfaced, the ship was already on its side. I swam away as fast as I could. I knew the magazines would explode. I was 200 meters away when it happened. The pressure wave lifted me right out of the water. I thought I was dead." The interviewer asks, "Do you hate the German commander?" Crawford thinks for a long time. Then he says, "No, I hate the war. Tiesenhausen did his job. I did mine. My friends died. His friends died later. We all lost. The only winners were the politicians, sitting safe in London and Los Angeles." This interview will become part of the Imperial War Museum collection. It's brutally honest. It shows what soldiers know, what civilians often don't understand. In war, there are no real winners, only survivors and the dead. The technical analysis of the Barham sinking changed naval warfare forever. British engineers analysed every aspect. They found, first, the torpedoes all hit below the armour belt. HMS Barham had 330 millimeters of armour on its sides, but only above the waterline. Below, it only had 100 millimeters. Tiesenhausen knew this. He specifically targeted the unprotected area. Second, the 3 torpedoes hit within 7 seconds, so close together that the pressure waves combined. A single explosion might have held the watertight bulkheads. 3 simultaneous explosions tore them apart. Third, the rapid capsizing prevented rescue efforts. Normally it takes 15-30 minutes for a battleship to sink. That gives time for evacuation. Barham capsized in 4 minutes. No time for organized evacuation. No time to open hatches. Most of the men below deck were trapped instantly. Fourth, the magazine explosion was avoidable. British design placed ammunition chambers too close to the outer hull. German and American battleships had better separation. After Barham, the Royal Navy changed all their designs. These 4 findings presumably saved thousands of British lives in the remaining war years, but they came too late for the 862 men of HMS Barham. The names are carved in stone at the National Memorial Arboretum in Staffordshire, Scotland. 862 names. The youngest, boy seaman Robert Hughes, 16 years old. The oldest, Commander Hugh Renwick, 52 years. Every November 25th, survivors and families gather there. There are fewer and fewer each year. Crawford died in 1998. Most of the other survivors are dead now, too. Soon, there will be no one alive who witnessed it. But the story remains. The lesson remains. A single U-boat. 375 meters distance. 4 torpedoes. 8 minutes. That's the difference between life and death in naval warfare. That's how thin the line is between triumph and tragedy. A few seconds earlier or later, maybe Barham would have seen the torpedoes. Maybe she would have maneuvered. Maybe 862 men would have seen their families again, but maybe doesn't count in war. Only what happened counts. And what happened on November 25, 1941, was this. Lieutenant Commander Hans-Diedrich Baron von Tiesenhausen and 44 German U-boat crewmen accomplished the most improbable attack in U-boat history. They infiltrated a protected fleet. They sank a battleship in 8 minutes. They escaped against all odds, and 1 year later they paid the ultimate price for their success. This is the true story. No propaganda, no heroes, just men fighting a war. Men who died. Men we must never forget. The archival documents are clear. The eyewitnesses have spoken. The technical analyses are complete. This is not a legend. This is history. These are not just statistics from dusty archives. These are the moments that decided the fate of millions. Real soldiers, real fear, real consequences. These stories must never be forgotten. If these historical truths are important to you, then support with YouTube's Super Thanks, the golden heart below. Every Super Thanks allows me to spend weeks in archives, digitizing rare documents, interviewing surviving witnesses. HMS Barham lies today at a depth of 100 meters, 60 miles off the Egyptian coast. She is a war grave. Diving is prohibited. 862 men rest there forever. U-331 lies at a depth of 300 meters off Algiers. 49 men rest there forever. Both ships, both crews, all dead. That is the price of war. That is what it really means when we talk about naval warfare. Not strategies on maps, people who die. Never forget their names, never forget their sacrifice, never forget that on both sides, men fought who just wanted to go home. And most of them never came back.